Setting up a meeting for custom streaming.
Huh.
Here we are. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Mindset Monday. I'm Shelley Butler.
I'm Yves Doucet.
Yes, you are. And here we are. Yves is at the office. I am at home. Little bit of a ice storm here. Little bit,
Just,
right?
just a bit.
Just a bit. Just a
Mhm.
bit. I was being a little bit of a pansy not going out today probably, but yeah. Here we are though.
Okay, let's look at that, right? Because if the topic of today is,
School's closed.
uh,
School's
what
closed.
what are your plans to say, right? And so we called and you said, "Hey, I don't feel good. I don't want to do it." And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you said, "I don't want to drive."
Yeah, I don't want to drive.
So was it that you weren't feeling good, or
I
that you
wasn't
weren't
feeling
feeling
good.
good? You weren't feeling good enough to say, "Oh, I don't want to drive either." Or you're afraid to say, "I don't want to drive." That's my question.
Oh, no. To you? No. Gosh, no. I've
Oh.
done so much better. Think about me 10 years ago in driving. I mean, if there was a flake of snow, I'd be just like, oh my God, I can't drive. I had gotten myself so far ahead of myself, you know what I mean? Instead of just being in the now, I was like, I'm going to have an accident. I'm going to be in the ditch. It's going to be awful. And now I have no real troubles driving. I do not like it when it's an ice storm because no matter how good your tires are, it's not going to be great. But no, I woke up feeling so rough today. I went down, did my workout. Everything was a struggle. I got into the bath. I sent Eve a message, "Good morning, BFF." I'm not doing Mindset Monday. I got into the bath and I don't know. I just had this surge of energy. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to call him because I'm feeling so much better now." But no, I did not want to drive for sure. Absolutely, I didn't want to drive. But no, I'm not yeah, not feeling great. How about you? How you feel? Like you were so phlegmy on Friday when we were out.
Still suffering from a cold. So
Yeah.
it seemed to
I
be
think you gave
bad.
it to me.
Could be. Why didn't you take it? Why do I still have it if I gave it to you?
Right? Right?
You're gonna take something, take it all. Like,
Take it all, not
why would you
half,
leave me
like
with anything?
half-ass that shit. Yeah. Oh, that stuff. Pardon my French. I'm
Just
home. I forget where I'm at.
okay, so let's get into
Yeah,
the
beep
conversation.
beep. All right. So here we are. I'm going to share my screen. And we are going to be talking about, let's share it here. So we are going to be talking about, we're going to go into a deep conversation. So what you have to do here, this is our app called ShowUp. And what you've got to do here is you can take a screen or photo. What am I trying to say, Eve? You can take a photo of this QR code and it'll lead you right into the conversation. Or you can use the link below if you want to use it on your computer. And we're going to have a discussion and we're going to have a conversation. All of us are going to have a conversation together. So it's not just you, me, Eve and I, it's going to be all of us.
Yeah.
Now, this is anonymous, right?
Mhm. Yes.
uh or not, you don't have to be anonymous, but if you want to be anonymous, because this conversation, this topic, hope you all got in. How many people are on? We've got a couple people on. We'd love to have a whole lot more.
All
All
right.
right.
So Diane is asking if you can copy the link to the chat.
Oh yes, yes, I can definitely do that.
Thank you, Diane. Always watchful after us. Good job.
Thank you, Dion.
Mhm. Oh, I think she did it. She did it
Oh,
already. Yeah.
somebody did it. Okay, thank you, Dion. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, let's get right into it. So this has come up a few times. I've been doing a lot of Simon Sinek courses and this kind of came up from Simon Sinek and he always talks about, our why. And one of the conversations that has been happening in our group is, what are you afraid to say at work? And, what is actually holding you back from saying those things at work? So I'm hoping that we will get a few people talking about what they're afraid to say at work. For me, I can get afraid. I can get afraid at work to say things at work for sure. We've had a pretty difficult last few weeks at our work and last few months really at work and we've had some pretty in-depth conversations. Now, for me, um, I have some concerns that if I talk about struggles, if I talk about cash flow, if I talk about um, maybe us not meeting deadlines, I feel that um, people will, look at it so negatively that, they're unable to kind of continue the conversation. Um, Controversial issues like an unpopular topic, afraid to be confrontational with other people. Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes we have to say things that we don't necessarily want to say because deadlines aren't being met or because we're not coming in on budget. We're still having the same, like for us, we're still having the same bug issues that we continue in our development. These are difficult. I am afraid to ask questions that I don't necessarily want the answer to. You know, yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. It can be very, very difficult. I like this one. It can be very, very difficult, right, to ask that question, right? I think the biggest one for me as a leader or in my position that I'm in is people coming to me and they're so fearful and I know what they're about to ask when they have this look on their face and it's I need a raise.
Hmm.
I need a raise. It's probably one of the most difficult things for people to ask. Scared to say that there should be consequences to not meet the deadline time after time. I did most of the work, but someone else is taking the credit. I deserve a raise. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Maybe you
I
can,
did most of the work, but someone else is taking the credit.
huh.
Eve,
Can you share the link one more time?
I can.
I have some new people coming in, so I don't know what the question of when you're doing that. There you go. There. So just scan the barcode there.
Join us in this conversation. Yeah, use your phone. Go on into your, like as if you're taking a picture and come and join us in this conversation. What are you afraid to say at work? Or what questions are you afraid to ask? I did most of the work, but someone else is taking the credit. I can remember having this conversation at work a few times. How about you? I don't feel comfortable speaking up in meetings. Now, isn't that interesting? This is the basis of a small basis of what this tool is actually representing. This particular conversation, I don't feel comfortable speaking up in meetings, is all about the anonymity. So, there's a lot of introverts out there, and your organization is probably made up of half of them. They probably have some amazing ideas, and they're not able to speak up in that setting because of they are an introvert. So it's difficult for them to speak up in front of everybody. A great A great thought, a great idea sometimes starts from not such a great idea. And as we listen to somebody's thoughts on this idea, we can come up and we can tag our ideas onto it. Some of the most brilliant things that we've done at Dovico have come from the silliest of ideas. So never ever question where that particular idea comes from. Allow it to flow and allow it to be out there so we can be part of that idea because it doesn't necessarily have to be linear, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that exact idea. We can build upon it. And I think that is the best use, one of the best uses of this tool. We don't have this anonymous platform, so how can I ask questions without risking blowback? Well, grab the tool, right? Grab the tool. We don't have this anonymous platform. So how can I ask questions without risking blowback? So interesting, right? This tool is free to you. You can have this tool. I believe it's right now for 30 days. And you go to your next meeting and bring the tool with you. Doesn't have to have any height. There's no hierarchy. You know, the manager doesn't have to set it up or buy it. You can certainly grab it, share just like I did that barcode and say, hey guys, you're going to have to get brave enough to say that. Hey guys, I found this tool and it's anonymous so we can all share openly and freely without the blowback, whatever the blowback you believe is. So many of us have that fear of blowback when it doesn't happen, because we've had people at Dovico share things that they believed that was going to cause some blowback, not only from perhaps Eve and I or the leadership team, but from their teammates. And in actuality, the kindness that has come out from that has been absolutely so opening, so much discovery for us. So don't allow your thoughts of blowback to stop you from using this tool. Grab it. It's you can go to showup.io and that's where you'll find this tool. I don't want to be confrontational with my question and be unliked. Yeah, absolutely. Being unliked is a huge thing for most of us. We all want to be liked. There was a quote not out there recently. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was, if everybody likes you, you're probably not doing much out there in the world. You're probably not raising any eyebrows in the world. So ideally that quote meant, you know, if you're unliked, if people don't like you, if people are pointing fingers at you and saying, oh, look what that person's doing, it probably means that you're creating some waves out there, and that usually means that you're onto something. So I remember Robin Sharma would say, when you start to do stuff, people are going to not like you. When you start to go out there and do stuff and create, be innovative, people will throw stones, and it's up to you to pick up those stones and build your monument. Hey, Eve.
Well, to me, that question, I don't want to be confrontational with my question and be unlight. Whether or not people react to your personality is an opportunity for you to see that you may have to change certain things about your personality. So when you ask a question and the reception is triggering, right, for someone, you can actually observe. But if you're not engaging in interpersonal relationship, in other words, if you're not comfortable in saying something, you're not actually observing your personality. So instead of like saying, hey, how are they going to be triggered? It's more of I'm going to say something to see how I feel about it, to see if it feels right. If they're triggered about it, is it something I want to change in my energy, in my way of saying it? So start small. Start by saying the smallest of things. You don't have to like tell your boss he's an idiot, or like, I don't like your hairstyle, or I don't like that you're old or whatever it is. You can start small by saying, well, maybe I feel bad. I don't feel good. I need to take a day off today. Is that okay? So start with a small conversation. So, and the the thing about this is like, to me, to have a life where you are in balance with yourself, you will have, like, if you don't say these things, these, like, whatever's in your heart, you become unbalanced inside of you. You hold it up and you bring it home. You you attack your friends, you attack your families. So it's a good practice to start testing um, this way of being, a small thing at a time. And you will find that some people are really good listeners, and you will find that some people are not. And it's up to you to develop this kind of relationship. Like, if um, if a person's not listening, or there's no space to listen, there's not a good time for you to say something. I have a few of my friends that are ADHD, and they take pills for it. But usually there's no space for me to say anything, because their energy is too much. So they're not listening. So I tend not to say something when there's no space for listening. I wait until there's a space. And if it doesn't come right away, I will create that space. I will say, hey, how are you listening today? I need to tell you something. How are you listening to? And if they're not there, I'm not going to say something. So it's a practice to be able to get that emotion out. And keep in mind that an emotion, something that you feel, is meant not to be stored inside of you, but meant to be actually expressed, right? And it's better to express it in little doses than to hold it up inside of you and to wait until it explodes. Because if it explodes, that's when you get into trouble. That's when you get into controversy. That's when you get into, there's no chance for you to adapt, to change certain things about yourself. And so I would say try to practice a little bit at a time. And if it doesn't work, if you're in a relationship with someone or some people that there is no space for you to be heard, well, as humans, we need to be heard. We need to be heard. So
Yeah.
if you can't find a friend where you can express that, maybe it's time to change teams, change the relationship. And
Yes.
it doesn't mean anything against that person, or that it just means that your energy is not aligned.
Yeah.
Um, if you look at long-term relationship, we've been friends for a long time, Shelley and I, and
Yes.
I know when she's listening, and I know when she's not, and I know when I'm not listening. So and we've grown together as a listener, as a journal, as a way to say, and we rarely got mad at each other, which is interesting, right? And but that doesn't happen with all my relationships. I can't say that's true. I have gotten mad at people, and people have gotten mad at me just recently, actually. And then I go back to, okay, what did I not do? What did I bottle up? Where was there a place for me to say something a little bit at a time? So I'd say go slow. Yeah. So
I love that, Eve. And you reminded me as well is if you're going home with your work and you have all kinds to say about your work, especially if it's insufferable, and so you're sharing with your wife, now you're sharing with your husband, and that's all you can talk about, right? What you're doing is exactly that. You are afraid to say it at work. So what you do is you bring that work home, and it creates probably friction, right? I would say. So if you're finding that you're bringing those conversations home because you're more comfortable there, it's probably time that you open up and say them at work.
but
Um,
let's just keep in mind that life is an expansion of yourself, right? We are constantly expanding.
yeah,
If you're balling up everything inside of you, and you're waiting to be with your friend to express it, eventually something's going to hit. Something's going to hit with your friends or your family,
yeah,
or your job. So all relationships like expand to a certain point, and then they implode, because we don't know when to leave. We don't know when it's time. And
true.
we don't know how to learn from these, like, what is it to learn? How can we get better? How can we get more patient, more listener? And I had a discussion last week, actually, with one of my friends. Does the environment create the personality, or does personality create the environment? In other words, are you bound or constricted by your environment? Well, it's partially true. Your personality dictates whether or not you're bound or constricted by the environment. So he was making a reference to government jobs. And he was saying, if you work for a government job, I can't hear you.
Oh, I was saying I love that fire. I just sent fire, so.
Okay. So he said, like, if you're working for a government job, like you'll never, you can, there's too much restriction, too many rules, you'll never grow. I said, well, that's not true. Lots of people that I know personally have gotten really good careers out of the government and they excelled. They made lots of money, they excelled, they got promoted. So it's not true. And my personal experience is I left a job recently, right? It wasn't safe for me. But there's lots of people working there that they feel safe there. So it's partially your personality and partially the environment. And
Yeah.
what I'm learning more and more is like your environment, right? And your triggers or your personality to that environment is your limiting belief, right? And we have to rise above that. And sometimes you have to leave the environment in order to see it, to rise and to get better at it. And that's part of evolution. So I'm not scared to leave anymore because I know that I've extended it to the like I pushed it to the limit and I say, okay, I got to create space. I learned what I needed to learn. I got to move on. And it doesn't mean that I'm making them bad. Like I just gave you an example. I'm
Yeah.
saying, how can I get better at this? How can I get less reactive, less attached,
Yeah.
less of a self? And these are our pillars and our practices. That's what we do, right? And
Yes.
focusing on one thing and get out of our heads and but it's a practice. So I would say start the discussion slow. And if it gets confrontational, know when to leave. Know when to leave. When it's not working out,
Know, yeah,
know
know when to leave before you make, you know, before you make, what do you call it? Like have a terrible conversation, or before you
a
say
terrible,
something that you're going to regret, or
yeah,
if you find that you're living every day in anxiety because
time to
of this
leave.
place,
Time to
you've
leave.
got to leave. You've got to stop blaming the place and understand that the place just isn't for you, right? And easier said than done because we all have to pay our bills. I absolutely get that. But you have one life and you've got to decide, right? You have to decide whether this anxiety ridden day after day is worth it for you.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna add this. I was coaching a young lady last 2 weeks ago, and she was saying, my boss, who I love, like we get along great. I can tell her anything, and I love her to death, but she's leaving. I said, don't lose her. Don't lose her. So
yeah.
if you change job or your boss changes job, or if you have people that are active listening to you, right? Like in other words, that you get along, don't lose them. Maybe you follow them.
Oh,
Maybe you apply for a job with them, but don't lose them. Keep contact
don't, yeah.
because
Don't lose them.
don't lose them.
Take them out for lunch. Make sure that you can get a few coffees in there. Absolutely. It's so powerful when you have somebody in your life that you can just send a note to say I love you, or know that they're there when you are afraid to speak up, because they will hold you in the palm of their hand until you are ready. It's important to have those relationships. I'm so grateful for ours. And I always say to people, build that relationship. You don't need to have 10 of them. You need to have one. Okay, let's move on here and let's make sure that we get to everybody's comment, because I want them to be part of the conversation. So I need a break. Oh, sometimes so hard to say, right? I need a break. I can say anything as long as no one hears me. Oh, I can't hear you. I lost you. Hello? You're
Yeah,
muted.
like I go in the woods and I say that I talk out loud. I do that all the time.
Well, as long as nobody's talking back and the trees aren't all of a sudden talking to you, you're all right. I'm not happy in this role. Oh, I wish more people would actually say that. That is so important. The thing is when you are in that role that you absolutely hate, um, you're not doing the job. You are causing your own stress, you are causing your own anxiety, and probably there's another position within that company, or there's some way to manipulate that role that you can find happiness, right? Speak up on that. At Dovaco, we very prideful in ensuring that people are happy within their role. But if they don't actually realize that they're not happy, if they don't have enough self-awareness that they're not happy in that role, they just kind of come in and do the role because their education was in development or whatever. We need you to say, I'm not happy in that role, because sometimes, like I say, within the same company, you can find that role that will make you so happy. Just because I work from home doesn't mean I'm available 24/7. Okay,
It's
that is
it's
a,
interesting because that was a problem when we were working at the office, right? And it
yeah.
was such a problem that the government of Australia had to put a law
Can
forbidding.
you
Can
imagine?
you imagine?
Can
So
you
that's a
imagine?
problem, and um, yeah, I get it. So you
Yeah,
need to say
I
something.
get it
Yeah.
too. I get it too. I feel we should be back in the office more. Ooh. Do you know what? Go to the office more.
I was going to say the same thing. Just go.
Yeah, just go. Go to the office more. If you
Invite
feel
people. And invite people. Say, hey, are you going to the office, Shelley? I'm going. Invite the people you want to hang around with. Yeah.
exactly, because you know what? They'll say yes. I know we had this amazing on Wednesdays we would meet with a kinesiology team from the University of Moncton. We were doing like a cooperative with them, and we absolutely adored it. You know, we hadn't been in the office for so long, but most of us, I think all of us actually, that were going and doing that, we were like, oh my God, like we're so together. We're feeling so good about being. Now, I feel we should be back at the office more. When you're talking like that, I don't think you can talk about I don't think you should use the word we. I don't think you should talk to other people. I feel we should be back to the office more. Try to really, when you're talking, to come from the I, as Eve would always say. Speak from the I. So I feel I should be back in the office more.
Yeah. Or I
Just a
want to have more.
suggestion.
And then
Just a suggestion,
yeah,
right? I feel that I should be back in the office more. So if you feel that you should be back in the office more, like Eve said, invite people, because, you know, there's probably people out there that would like to get back into the office with you as well. While it's purely personal, just a sec, I gotta move my thing. While it is purely personal, as my team has never made me feel bad about it in the past, I fear saying that I am not feeling 100% and need a day off.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, I love that. It's hard. It's hard to say that you need a day off. And I get that. I had that for a long time. I used to talk about my guilt. You know, I gave birth and I was like extremely guilty over everything. Um, and it really came home like or honed in on me when I after I had my daughter. I felt guilty for everything, guilty for the bottle not being warm enough, guilty for the bottle being too cold, guilty for, you know, not changing the diaper and everything. And it led into all of my life. And then when I really got into making sure that I was leading my best life and I was focusing on my growth and I was focusing on my self-awareness, that I did the things that brought me joy. I fueled myself with things that brought me happy. And really had to get so self-aware that that wasn't bringing me joy or that was bringing me joy. It was nuts. And I remember sitting down with Eve for coffee one day. I was coming in from the cottage and I was so peaceful. I was so content. I was so calm. I felt guilty for feeling that way when others around me didn't. So I worked for the next few months on releasing the guilt. And what was happening for me without the guilt, feeling happy and contented and peaceful, um, the guilt kept me from the worthiness, right? I was worth it. I was worth it to feel all those feelings. So it was interesting for me how long it actually took me to release this emotion that all humans have is guilt. And it is one of the tragic emotions, to tell you the honest truth. It is one of those emotions that when you um, when you go deep into guilt, it actually does nothing for you. Um, yeah, there's no growth in it. It'll keep you super stagnant, actually. But I think the guilt for me was keeping the evenness, the fairness. And I was feeling so great and so contented and so at peace. I didn't have these stories in my mind. I wasn't making stuff up because the people would say that. My husband would say, "You got nothing to worry about. You're making it up now." Because I was very much a worrywart. So I would suggest if you are feeling super guilty about taking a day off, take some more of those off. You got to get your job done, period. You got to get your job done. But the fear of saying that I'm not feeling 100% and need a day off is something that is taking up way too much of your headspace. Let it go. How do I say I'm conflicted without losing credibility? I'm usually in my own way when I'm afraid. Hiding becomes the easy choice in that feeling, but nothing happens here in the hiding, and I start to resent myself for not having the courage to speak up. Oh, so good. So good. Eve, you have any words of wisdom? Conflicted. If you're
Well,
conflicted, how
it's
do
like
you not
saying,
lose credibility?
well, okay, so if you're surrounded with people that you can't share your emotions with, in other words, to say that I'm reacting right now, or I'm mad right now, or I'm conflicted right now, change the room. Um, because humans are conflicted all the time. Like if you look at most of your thoughts, they're conflicted. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen to political system. I don't know what's going to happen to my job. I don't know what's going to happen to my relationship. These are conflict. We are constantly in conflict. And if you don't have the ability to have a relationship where you can say, I'm conflicted here, I don't know where I should be going, like where I should be going. You don't have a person inside your life that says, gives you a little bit of peace in order for you to get rid of that conflict. You gotta go find people that will give you that peace, that are, I call them living journals, like people that are living journal. They're not always coaching you, they're listening to you. And by simply expressing it, you will find that solution. That's what I mean. So if you don't express your emotions are, if you're conflicted, that's an emotion. If you're in desire, that's an emotion. If you're in guilt, that's an emotion. If you keep it balled up, like you were doing with your husband, you're saying, I feel guilty, your husband would say something. He's listening to you, your emotion goes out and you release that emotion. So it's important to have relationships where you can find where you can, and if you don't, which happens, well, then journal. Take up a journal and write it, but write it in a journal. You can be your own listener. So will you lose credibility? What loses credibility more than anything else is not moving, not doing anything. And what loses credibility more than even more than that, it's doing the same thing over and over again and can't get out of it. In other words, saying the same stories. And if you want to experience that, just go spend some time with elderly people and they'll tell you the same jokes, the same stories over and over again. And all of a sudden you lose interest. So where you lose credibility is when we're stuck in the same way of being, the same way of doing the same thing. We're not trying something new. We're not able to go on the edge, right? And then we lose credibility because there's nothing new about
Yeah,
ourselves. Yeah. So I would say
absolutely.
give up that hiding with someone and then do something new.
Yeah, the only person that you're disappointing, in this, and you've said it right here, is yourself. You're disappointing yourself. So stop that. You're the most important person in your life. I don't agree with the decisions leadership is making. Yeah, you're not going to. You're not going to. And that is a fearful space to be, right? How do I say to the leaders, I don't agree with the decisions you're making?
But more than that, and once you've said it, can you let it go? Because there's no right decision. There's just moving and discovering. We Like so many people I know are stuck to, I have the answer, do it my way because I have the answer. This is how, if you're working at McDonald's and you're making hamburgers, totally agree. They have a recipe. But if you're in life where you're trying to discover something new, nobody has the answer. So it doesn't matter. I used to really worry about I knew to need to do it this way. I don't anymore. I need to move. So I listen to leadership when Shelley says, "Hey, we're going this way." I say, okay, what can I do? What can I bring? How can I create from this space? How can I become that person? How can I repurpose my skill set to go discover something that I haven't discovered? And that's the question. You should say it. You have a right to say it. Hey, I don't think that's right. But more importantly than anything else, you have to be on the team. Because if you make a like if you're on a rowing team and you don't agree with the person who's telling you where to go and you start rowing differently, you're hurting yourself and your whole team member.
Your whole team.
You're
Yeah.
not discovering anything.
Yeah.
Consider that the resistance that you have to the person telling you where to go is a personal resistance that's stopping you from moving,
That's right.
right?
Absolutely right. The thing is that leader has no idea whether they're right as well. The one thing we do not have as humans is the ability to see our future. And, we can try our best, but always speak up, always speak up. Do it with kindness. You can say, geez, Shelley, like, ugh, I'm not sure. That decision seems a little radical. And, this is what I'm thinking. But the thing is if you don't agree with the decision that leader is making or leadership is making, you believe you're right. You believe that you're making a better decision, and that is a really really a bad place to be. The one thing you want to have is what Eve just said. You want to have openness. You want to be in discovery of what it is. All right, let me try it on for size. I could be wrong here. Be that. Be that. And if you get down a road and it's not working out, I mean, speak a little louder, right? There's always a way to have a conversation, and this is an amazing way to have a conversation. Grab the tool, use ShowUp. It's anonymous. Go there and say, I'm not sure we should be doing, and allow for the people to speak. And if your entire team is not feeling what leadership is feeling, well, maybe that's a space that leadership gets to have a peek at whew, my team is telling me something. I think that's so important. And this is a great tool to do it with. I was treated unfairly, but I'm afraid to say anything. Life is not fair.
Yeah. So
You'll probably be treated unfairly again.
I would create a space for it. That's what I would do. Um, Meaning that you wait for the right time. If you're treated unfairly, mostly it's because people are reacting.
Yeah.
So you can do one of two things: is if an occurrence that keeps going on, and maybe you're being treated badly or unfairly because they don't like your personality, time to move on, right?
Yeah.
Time to go somewhere else. If you can create a space and say, okay, that wasn't right, well, like you have to create that space because it's
Yeah.
going to get worse and worse and worse, right? And life is not fair. You're absolutely right. Your
Life
percent,
is not fair. Yeah.
your
Create some resiliency within yourself because every corner you turn, life is unfortunately not going to be fair for you. So if you don't find a way to be resilient through these changes, through your your ability to look at the unfairness and face it head on, it's going to be a real struggle the rest of your life. Eve said to me a few weeks ago, is after one of these conversations that we had, I said, wow, people are looking for justice. Everywhere I turn, people are looking for justice. And Eve said, Shelley, I would like you to consider that no, people aren't looking for justice. They're looking for the injustice. Remember that?
Oh yeah. So what happens in life is if you all you see is the injustices in the world, eventually you become unjust.
Yeah.
Eventually
Eventually
you
you
become
become
unjust. So
unjust. Yeah.
the brain
Yeah.
does not understand the difference between a negative or a positive. It just understands what you're practicing. So I would
Yeah.
start looking at the world with gratitude. Wake up in the morning, be grateful for what you have, and pretty soon people will treat you fairly because that's what you see, right?
Yeah.
So you don't, there's a great exercise that we did at the last event we had. It was I had you listen to the same phrase over and over again, but with different connotation. And
Yeah.
you remember that exercise?
I do.
So we don't see the world with our eyes. We don't hear the world with our ears. We hear it with our emotions, with our past. So, so if you want a different life, right, and you don't want to be bound by your genetic destiny, in other words, that you become what you practice, your life become what you practice. I know so many people that stand against bullying and they've become the bully. So this is
Yeah.
what's wrong with the world today. We stand against bullying, we're against bullying, and we become the bully, right? Right? If you look, just look at our political climate, like the injustices, the people saying they don't understand why they think they see themselves differently because they become what they're trying to defend against. So,
Yeah. And we don't know what to believe anymore. It's
so,
very difficult to believe in anything that's out there anymore.
so I would say practice gratitude.
Yeah. I
Be
love
grateful,
that.
right? Practice gratefulness every day, and
Yeah.
then life will start to be fair to you. You'll be lucky more. It won't be perfect. Life won't be perfect, but you'll see more. You'll meet. Like I remember Bruce. Remember Bruce, my homeless person?
Yeah.
Well, I still do. I buy him stuff. I'll give him some money. And he asked me one day, "What do you want?" Because I know everybody wants something. I said nothing, and I said, "Hold on, I want something. I want you to see act of kindness. The only thing I'm asking when they call me is to see active kindness." And and there's not a day that he doesn't call me that he's not a nice man, which is really weird because he used to be like yelling and always complaining about like how life wasn't fair to him. Now he doesn't. He says thank you. Even when I say I can't help him out, he'll say thank you and I hope you have a great day every single time.
Yeah,
And you
because
just
he saw what it looked like and
yeah.
it felt good. See, the
So
thing is when we get to try it on for size, it can feel good. And I love that story. I love when you talk about that because so many people think that, oh, they're a lost cause. People think that, the people that surround them at work that are always so negative, they're a lost cause. No, you can actually show people through acts of kindness, and it doesn't mean that you have to give them things. It just means every time you face them, you are simply kind, and it goes a long way. There's some science out there that if you share 5 gratitudes aloud a day, that you will be 9% happier. I have no troubles sharing 5 gratitudes a day so I can be 9% happier. Um, I think that we all need to do that. So we have gone over once again. Thank you so much for participating. Kind of wanted to show you guys the deep dive, but we'll actually do that next time we come back on the next Mindset Monday. So get ready to have another great conversation with Yves and I. I want to thank you all for being here with us today and sharing in that conversation. Don't be afraid to say the things that you need to say at work because you are worth it. You are worth it. You simply have to do it with kindness and people will meet you there where you are at. I promise you. I'm Shelley Butler,
I'm Yves Doucet.
and this has been Mindset Monday. Thank you so much for being with us. Love you. Get your workout in. And how are you showing up? Bye.